Now, the most dramatic examples of science going wrong are cases of deliberate fraud, where scientists have actually faked data or lied or misrepresented things. This is not actually the main reason for the reproducibility crisis, but it's certainly a very dramatic reason, and it certainly does happen. Let me give some examples. One infamous example is Paolo Macchiarini, a prominent Italian medical researcher. Now, he's looking at replacing the windpipe. If due to some illness your windpipe has to be cut out, it's very hard to replace it. People have tried putting in artificial tracheas, windpipes, but these things are often rejected by the body's immune system. But he claimed to have found ways to make replacement artificial windpipes that were not rejected. Led to a string of prominent papers in top journals showing amazing results. It was feted around the world and appointed as a professor at the prestigious Karolinska Institute. The institute is actually responsible for awarding the Nobel Prize for Medicine. All seemed great, except people who've got his new windpipes were dying horribly, often with grotesque problems. The ones that survived often had to have their new things replaced. Even when they were not dying, there was lots of problems. Doctors who worked with the professor kept reporting to the management, look, he's putting these things in, he's the feted, famous professor, but we're not. He said this is working really well, but it's not. Look at all these growths, look at all these problems, look at these people dying. But, of course, the management at the Karolinska Institute ignored them, downplayed them. They did their own study and said, no, everything's fine. But people kept complaining, and patients kept dying. And eventually, particularly after a documentary came out about it, the evidence became too big to ignore, and it turned out that his method was complete crap. It turned out he was actually a serial fabulist. He'd been lying to people about all sorts of things. He'd been having affairs with multiple people while married, lying about being the Pope's private doctor. All these things came out afterwards, but for a long time they'd been hushed up by the institutes. Going now to South Korea, Woo Suk Hwang claimed to have cloned human embryos in 2004. He became a unbelievably famous scientist in South Korea, even put his name on the postage stamps. Huge amounts of money poured in. He was a national hero. But then some people noticed that a few of his papers seemed to have identical or faked images, like two different papers supposed about two different things. The images looked exactly the same. Then whistleblowers, people who worked in his lab, started reporting that actually he had not actually generated cell lines at all. It turned out that his cloning research actually was almost entirely made up. Research money had been diverted to private accounts. He always claimed that it was still spent on research, but he seemed to have bought his wife a car, for example, with research money going over to physics, but not such a high-profile effect. Michael Lecoeur, this is not physics, physics in a second. This is about social science research. Michael Lecoeur showed that door-to-door campaigning to try and influence people's ideas about gay marriage, if the person doing the campaigning was actually gay themselves, homosexual, his research showed that this made a huge difference, that actually having an example of a persecuted group coming out there in front of people and telling them made a big difference, which is a very hopeful idea. Lots of people tried to implement this. But when the paper was examined in detail, things turned out to be rather odd. The control sample, the numbers there, or what people's opinions were, turned out to be identical from a control sample in a different paper about a different topic. And if you look at the noise data, you never expect to get a perfect result. There's always going to be some scatter, and it had quite the wrong distribution function. So eventually it became clear that the entire survey had been faked, and he'd never done the survey. He lost his job, end of his career. It would almost certainly have been less effort actually to have done the survey, so why he did that's a bit strange. Here's a physics example. Jan Hendrik Schoen, condensed matter physicist working at Bell Labs, who reported in 2001 the discovery of a carbon-based transistor. This led to 9 papers in Science and Nature, the most prominent science journals, and rumours of a Nobel Prize. For a while, it all looked great. But his results are so prominent that other labs tried to replicate them, and they just couldn't get these carbon-based transistors to work. Then again, people started looking more closely and noticed, once again, identically cloned pictures in different papers. In one paper, he was comparing two different molecules and showing that one molecule had twice the result of the other molecule. But when they looked at the actual column of numbers, numbers were not just roughly twice as much, they were exactly twice as much. Every number was exactly 2 times the number in the other column, down to 5 decimal places. People then asked, can we see your raw data? Oh no, I've lost all my raw data. I didn't have enough disk space on my computer. I had to delete it. Clearly faked the entire thing. So those are bad examples, but how common is the scientific fraud? And the bottom line is nobody knows. Almost certainly most cases of scientific fraud are never discovered. 0.2% of papers are retracted due to discovered frauds. That's a very small amount. Which sounds reassuring, but almost certainly the vast majority of fraud is never detected. They've done surveys of people ask scientists, have you ever done any faked your data? And about 2% of scientists report having done this. But almost certainly most people are too embarrassed to admit it, so that's probably an underestimate. If you ask scientists, do you know someone else who's faked their data? 14% claim. Of course, that also may be unreliable. They may not know, or they could be trying to put down their rivals. So it's probably more than 2%. I don't know, I'm guessing maybe 5%. Not enormous, but definitely real. Who commits this sort of fraud? It's almost entirely men. That will come as no surprise to anybody. It depends strongly by country. China and India have lots of cases. And now, partially this may be because they have a reputation for having a lot of fraud, and so people check it more carefully. So it could be that other countries are just as bad, but it's not being detected. But also in both countries there's extreme pressure to publish. In many Chinese universities, people are given cash grants equivalent to over a year's salary if they get a paper in a top journal. So with enormous incentive, perhaps it's no surprise. Also because the science in these countries has grown very fast, so there's not the same culture passed down from teacher to student that you get in countries where there hasn't been such rapid growth. Australia, USA, UK, Japan have fewer problems, probably, though maybe they've just not been found. A curious thing is that many fraudsters actually seem to still believe their results. They often will say things like, I'm sure this is still true, I just wasn't quite getting the results I needed, so I thought to get more attention I would make them look a bit better, tell a clearer story. Here's a quote from one person who admitted fraud. When your results are just not quite what you'd so badly hoped for, when you know that hope is based on a thorough analysis of the literature, when this is your third experiment on this topic and the first 2 went great, and when you know that there are other people doing similar research elsewhere who are getting good results, then surely you're entitled to adjust the results just a little and you make them look better. So how can you spot it? Well, as it's become clear there's so much fraud going on, people are now beginning to systematically comb through papers to look for things. A very common thing is duplicated or photoshopped images. For example, you might see a bit of an image looks the same in 2. This is not in biology where you're looking at, for example, tissue slices or blots or something like that. Looking at the stats, it's actually very hard to fake data reliably. And of course, whistleblowers, people in the lab who put their hands up and say, the senior professor is faking their data. Though it takes a lot of courage if you're a junior person to actually criticize the person who's probably hired you and is responsible for your job. And if they lose their job, it might put you out of work because the whole lab might close down. And if you do accuse your supervisor or your boss or your lab manager, then that could easily be a sure way to be sacked if it's not followed up. And often no one wants to know. Journals are often very resistant to being told that one of the papers they've published is actually a fraud because it damages their reputation. And universities and institutes also don't like to have a lot of publicity that our senior professor has committed fraud. So there's a lot of pressure to hush these things up.